Hello, everybody, and welcome to Vegan Business Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Fox, and my guest today is Jenah Bautmans. I hope I said that correctly because Jenah is French, and I'm just remembering some of my high school French. So Jenah is the founder of Jena St, which is a vegan handbag and accessories brand in Germany. Now, before founding Jena St in 2019, Jenah was the co-founder of Plantbased, which is a men's accessory company that uses animal leather. Now, while working in Bangladesh, Myanmar and Pakistan, she experienced an awakening of how the land and the people are impacted by heavy industries like fashion, which changed the way she looks at the world. She decided to make a difference as a result of seeing how tanneries actually process animal leather and its impact on the environment, on people, and on animals. Welcome, Jenah.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm excited to talk with you today because you've got such an interesting career trajectory. So we'll get into talking about Jena St, but before that, I'd love you just to talk about how you kind of got here, because you went from legal intern, then you went to marketing assistant, then fashion director, fashion creative director, then founded Plantbased, and now you founded Jena St. It's quite a difference from legal intern. You think, okay, she's going to be a lawyer. So just give us a little bit of a helicopter ride, just briefly, a little bit of an overview of how and why you went from legal intern to owner of a vegan fashion brand.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I was a student in Paris. I think my entire youth, I was very passionate about fashion in terms of its creative drawn, but also as a medium for expression. I don't know, when I got to choose, a study path, I went for the secure way. I think I got a bit scared to go full into the creative field. So I studied law actually for 5 years, wow. And then business for another year, which got me out of the, law path. And then I actually, did a bit of marketing, and I went for an internship in Bangladesh. I was working for an e-commerce giant, and afterwards to Myanmar and Pakistan for the same company. And and then actually fashion came back in a very funny way. It was not necessarily planned, but I guess it was always inside me. And so it found me again. Let's put it like this. Yeah.
Well, so what happened? Did you suddenly did you always have it there, like the creative or the fashion, the interest in fashion, or what kind of happened? Did you just kind of get that spark?
Yeah, so when I was working for this e-commerce giant, I was actually in charge of a rebranding. It was the time when, Amazon launched Amazon Fashion, and I was working on a similar business model for the region of Myanmar, Bangladesh, Pakistan. And so I was working in Pakistan actually on the first shoppable fashion week that was organized in the country. So I was working very closely to celebrity designers there. We organized this fashion week. They have a huge fashion culture actually, which is with very different codes what we have in the Western world. So it was amazing to dig into this. And so when I actually came back to Europe, I went into co-founding this first brand with my two male co-founders. And so for me, at the time I was vegetarian, and I looked at it as an opportunity to start something from scratch. I wanted to launch, I was very interested in launching a business, and I wanted to learn from it, and especially from the creative direction side of things. I knew that I could not relate to the product, but I really wanted to learn. And I actually worked on developing a partnership with a school based in Karachi that promotes girl education. And this is what kind of kept me going at the beginning. I just put my focus on this, and I was like, okay, this is learning and having an impact on girls' education there. Okay, I'll do it. But I think the second I stepped into the tanneries, I was like, okay, so I'll just, I'll suck it up for now, but I know this is not the right thing for me. And so very early on, actually probably 3 months in, I proposed my co-founders to go for a vegan line for women. And this is how the idea started, basically. And I started working on it on the side on my myself. I proposed them the idea, and at the beginning they were on board, but then they needed to focus, and I decided to focus on a product that I could really relate to.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's really helpful for people to know, like, how people, can change careers, change direction. And I also really love that you shared that you co-founded this other company, and even though you weren't on board with the product or the way it was produced, you took that experience and learned how to do that, and then brought that to starting your own vegan brand. So I really like that. I think that's fantastic. Tell us about the name, because your name is Jenah, and I know that which is spelled Jena, and then the company is Jenah, and I believe it's got a really nice meaning in Arabic. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when I was working in Pakistan, for instance, I was told several times that Jannah means paradise in Arabic, and also traveling to Morocco and so on. It's something that kept coming back, and also in India, Jena is also paradise, and so I was like, okay, I think there's a cool echo here. And so, and I chose this name because at the beginning, the website was designed in a way that it was like a virtual street. So Paradise Street, where you had the store to buy the bags, and you had a blog called The Cafe, which is still there actually. And so it was like a Paradise Street, basically trying to put this vision to life, and to build basically a virtuous business which lives in harmony with nature and its inhabitants. So I concede that it's an ambitious program, but it's like part of the vision, let's say.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that the name reflects the brand. I think, sometimes naming a business can be quite tricky. Sometimes you might go for just something really obvious that describes a business, but then, to actually create a brand and have real meaning behind the name. I really love that it reflects the values and the whole kind of ethos of the business. So talk to us a little bit about the challenges. So obviously you'd co-founded this Buckle and Seam in 2016. What did you learn from that? And what were some of the challenges in starting up Jena St effectively on your own? Because I'm assuming you've done this on your own, whereas you had two co-founders to begin with, but then you were doing this on your own. So what did you learn from your previous startup that you were able to bring to launching Jena St, and what were the challenges?
I think what I learned, a key learning, is that there is so much you can learn before you start, and so much you can actually prepare. And then there is all the stuff you had not planned and all the stuff that you could not foresee. And so that at some point you just need to start, and you just need to go for it and kind of figure it out on the way. And that it's okay to, make mistakes and learn by doing. That's a learning. And otherwise, I think a big challenge was to go from a creative director, co-founder, but with a focus and an expertise, to a sole CEO, and having to basically learn completely new skills that were taking a lot of energy from me at first.
Such as what kind of skills did you have to learn?
Like thinking about the business as a whole, in terms of the financing, for instance, the sales part, the marketing strategies. I was already kind of pretty involved in the marketing strategy, but then having to implement it yourself, not just being the one who creates the beautiful pictures. And HR, HR management, like who do you want to surround yourself with? What are the people who are going to make your vision possible? And at the same time, bring the skills that you need, accounting, administration,
Yes. They're often the less exciting, like fashion, co-founder, creative director kind of sounds exciting and sexy, doesn't it? Whereas, the admin and the bookkeeping and all of that, not quite so sexy, but obviously super important. So you're based in Berlin. Now, although you're French, you're based in Berlin, and the bags are made in Italy. Why is that?
So Italy is really like the traditional hub for luxury handbags. And I think that starting this vegan company 2 or 3 years ago, I just wanted people to be reassured in a way, and show them, okay, like we're producing with a material that you don't necessarily know. It's not leather, it's different, but it has the know-how and the craftsmanship of a luxury handbag or a premium handbag. So for me, producing in Italy was important in that way, like to kind of bring this stamp and this quality into the collection. And also staying into the European Union for me was very important because, for transportation problems, like logistic ways, to stay as local as possible, and also to make sure that the partners that I work with fall into the European Union labor and social laws for workers and so on. So that's now the new collection that's about to be released in shortly is going to be made in Portugal.
Yes.
There's also a very talented craftsman there, and so but Europe basically is important.
Yeah, gotcha. Now it's interesting you said that, because I know with Italy, so my partner Tracy likes to dance, and she orders like vegan point shoes, like ballet shoes. And one of the brands that she was using, they had a factory in Italy, and during COVID, when COVID hit, the factory closed. So I'm curious, because you're a fairly new brand, so you already had the challenges of, like you said, learning all these new skills and launching your business. So it's still a fairly kind of newish business. Then COVID hit, factories were closing in Europe, lockdown was happening. And also, I guess a lot of people, became financially insecure. A lot of people were losing their jobs, and maybe, not necessarily thinking of buying high fashion, handbags and accessories. So I'm curious, how has the whole COVID situation impacted your fairly new startup?
It's been so. I would say that most of our business is online. So in that way, we were still able to provide and to operate. Our showroom has been closed actually for almost a year, I would say.
Wow.
So of course it's a challenge, and at the same time, like everybody, we had to kind of rethink, and it gave us the time out of the daily hustle to really refocus on, okay, what do we want to keep, what do we want to stop, and I think it's been a great time to recenter on the core values of the brand and on the real, the true objective, which has been to go fully plant-based and circular. And so it has really enabled me to work on this new plant-based collection, way more than if I had to handle all the rest. So I would say that I'm finding the positive into a tricky and challenging situation.
Right. So what happened during the year? So you said your showroom closed. So were you having to still pay rent on that? Did you get any assistance from the government? And what were sales like during the 2020?
So I've been very, very amazingly surprised by my landlord, who offered me 2 months for free. I didn't even ask for it, so that was very nice. Otherwise, in Germany, there is a system called Kurzarbeit, where basically, in order for companies to fire employees, or because of their economical situation, you can reduce their time of work, and the government compensates. So these are the kind of mechanisms that are very widespread at the moment, especially for young companies. I have a team which has been really supportive, and who really believes in the vision and mission of the brand, and so who stayed strong. And in terms of sales, it has slowed down for sure. I mean, people are not going out as much. They're not going to the office. They're not commuting that much. But at the same time, I mean, we're going with the flow.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's it is kind of a tricky one. Now, you touched on the materials. So I noted you've been using a vegan eco-certified polyurethane material. And I was going to ask you, because obviously we're seeing lots of innovation in the material space. In fact, I interviewed Stephanie from the Material Innovation Initiative, who are kind of at the cutting edge of all the exciting things happening. So I'm curious why you went with that as opposed to, say, leathers that are made from cactus or pineapple or mushrooms and all these others, or is that a direction you're going to be moving in?
Definitely. So for me, when I started this project the first collection I started working on it more than 3 years ago. And at this time, my priority was to go from animal to vegan. That was the step, like the big step number one, to propose an alternative that would look and feel like leather so that, people don't have to step too far away from their habits, but still see that they can get a product that is as luxurious and smooth and also durable as leather. So I went for the more like comfortable option as I saw for the customers at this time, and also for material which has better abrasion results as cow leather. It is extremely durable. It's scratch resistant, water, sun resistant. And so I was like, okay, this is a great first step. Second step is going plant-based. And so the new collection is actually made of linen, apple leather, and organic cotton. And so we've achieved up to 95% plant-based material for this new collection. So I'm very, very happy. And I've been like studying this topic and being like really like, watching the innovations in the sector. I think COVID has also delayed a lot of things. I was in touch with a supplier with a completely innovative 100% plant-based option, which is coming to the market now. They were in research and development for, I don't know, since we met a year and a half ago. And so, all of these things, just like stick to the vision. Things go slow sometimes, but step by step.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know you're running a for-profit business, but also, as you mentioned, it's a mission-driven business, a for-purpose company as well. It's another good term. Talk to us, because obviously the mainstream fashion industry has the problem of oversupply. Obviously, particularly brands that are putting them on shelves. You're not sure exactly how many people are going to buy them, and it ends up a lot of waste. Tell us about how you're avoiding that issue of overproduction.
Yeah, I think waste management is one of the worst thing that you can find in the fashion industry. I think I read that 85% of everything that's produced ends up in the garbage. I just couldn't believe this.
Yeah,
it's terrible. So what we've put in place with Jena St is a community lab. So basically, we invite all our followers and our customers to take part into this little program, which is basically you register and you receive mini surveys that to give us your opinion about where the brand is going. How do you feel about the next designs? Giving your opinion on the new collection, on this bag, on this color, on this hardware. And making sure that we produce what people need. So we make less, but we make better and more accurate for what our community actually wants. And so it's really like a reality check. Also, do we making sure that what we want to communicate is clear for everybody. And at the end of each survey, we have little incentives as well, to reward the people who are actually engaged and supporting us on the journey. So yeah.
What kind of rewards do you offer?
It could be like taking part in a raffle to earn like a first prototype. It can be like a discount for when we launch, like the day of the launch, for instance. It can be this kind of things.
Gotcha. Wonderful, great. I love that. And you've also got and I think that's really great. I think that's a really smart way to operate, to really kind of engage people and get people invested in it. Particularly if they're likely to be customers, which is very smart. You also, I believe, you operate a circular handbag program where people, I think, once they finish with their bag, they send it back to you. I'm curious about how that works and what benefit is there, I guess, to the customer, but I'm also curious what benefit there is to you as a business.
Yeah. So at the moment we've started with this. We offer basically our customers, after 6 months of owning and cherishing their bags, to send it back to us against a 30% code to get another one if they want to, if they have different needs 6 months down the road. And in this way, we actually make sure that we either put the bag into a second consumption cycle, or that we possibly also reuse some of the hardware and some of the material in order to produce smaller accessories, such as our card holders, for instance. So yeah,
that's really smart. When you say put it into a second concept, what does that mean?
A second consumption cycle. So basically, reselling it secondhand.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
That was a posh way of saying that.
It was a very technical
That's
term.
a fashion term. Oh, that's great. That's great. I love that, because again, you really kind of, and because it's interesting, like you said, like when I was laughing in my head when you said after 6 months people could send it back. I'm like, wow, if I get a bag, like I hang on to mine for years. But you know what I mean? I'm not a fashionista. I love sparkle and bling, and I don't care what's in fashion as long as I like what I look. But you're right. And I think I love that you're addressing the needs of, a lot of people who are into the whole fashion thing and the seasons and, want to change things up. And like you say, instead of it just kind of going to waste, that you're actually, as a business, taking a proactive approach in incentivize. And I like the way you're incentivizing people to send it back, because you know what I mean? Like sometimes with recycling programs, people say, oh, you can send it back to us. Even I think, people who do kind of care about the environment, it's still a bit of a hassle to do it. But by offering them a 30% discount on a new bag, that's incentivizing them that, if they were going to buy a new bag anyway, they're sending it back to you, and then you're doing good things with it to avoid waste. So I love that. And I believe as well, I know you touched on how you're obviously passionate about empowering women, and you've got quite an affinity with Pakistan. And I believe you've got a little keychain program that you do where women in Pakistan make the keychains and you use those on your bag, and that empowers them. Do you want to just briefly tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was living in Karachi, I actually met the founder of this women empowerment organization. They have a clinic. They also work on mental health. They have a school, and they have a vocational training center where women can learn different careers. And they have artisans, basically, who make this handmade crafts. And so the kitchen is one of them. This is amazing because it provides them with more financial independence. They come to the organization, they get the order and what they need to do. They get all the materials from there, which for part of them are actually recycled things that they get, like fabrics and everything. They take everything home. They work from home. They stay with their kids, and when the kitchens are done, they bring them back to the organization that pays them. So it's a really amazing place. It's also a safe space for them to come and have social interaction with other women from the neighborhood. So it's a beautiful place. I've been there actually recently, and it's really beautiful.
It's amazing. I love that. I love how you built that other extra aspect into it. As well as obviously, I presume your bags are manufactured in facilities in Italy where, workers' rights are all good. There's no exploitation of people. But as well as doing that, you're actually adding this extra aspect to it. And I think it's just helpful to get businesses to think that way. Obviously being vegan is wonderful, and as a kind of a baseline, which is great. But then to also kind of think, well, how else can we, do good in the world? So I love that. Now, tell us a little bit about, obviously with businesses, funding is a key thing, getting capital in to keep the business going. You've already had experience, as you say, with the previous startup. So how has Jena St been funded to date?
So I've had a business angel a German business angel who's actually one of the leaders of the renewable energy sector in Germany. He built his own fund where he invests into impact startups. We're focusing on solving environmental issues, so mobility, food, energy mostly. And I got lucky because the only fashion brand in the landscape. And he went on board very early at a pre-seed stage, and then we also went for a crowd investing round. So he has a crowd investing platform as well. So that brings together people who are interested in working for a more virtual industry for the environment. So yeah, I felt a connection there. And what's amazing is that they're not looking only at growth KPIs, but also at impact KPIs. And so basically, if I wanted to take a bit more time to find the right materials for the new collection, they're not just going to push me to produce, but they're going to, also look at the sustainability journey that the brand is standing for. So
nice. That sounds like a really good fit. How did you get them on board? Like, how did you, kind of meet them? How did you pitch? I'm curious, kind of how you got over the line with them to get them to invest with you.
I want to say, it's been a very long process. First of all, I think from the first meeting to the signing was almost a year at the beginning. So, and other than that, it was actually through one of my former co-founders. So I would say networking mostly.
Yeah, that's important. And you're the second person I've interviewed in just a few weeks that said something similar, that from the beginning, like early discussions to actually getting the funding, it's been a good year. And I think that's important for people to know that it's not always instant or fast. And getting the right investor, I think, is really important as well, because like, as you say, people could quite easily say, okay, yeah, this sounds great, and front you the money, but then put that pressure on to kind of, get their investment back, and you have to produce. It's great that you've got the right investor that fits with your goals and your aims and the ethos of your business. So fantastic. Now, what about marketing? So putting it out there now, like you say, you've had it's been a challenging year in 2020 in particular, but in terms of getting to your customers, because your bags are quite high end, in terms of the the pricing, I think they're at least 200 euros, which I'm not sure how much American dollars that is, maybe 300, 350. They're quite high end, and obviously there's a reason for that. People are paying for an ethical product. But what marketing strategies are you using that are currently the most successful?
I think it's a mix of things. I think you really should, try and get people and your customers wherever they are. And right now it's mostly online. So what we've been doing with the team is to partner with other small businesses, who are potentially struggling as well from being closed down and so on, and organizing contests, for instance, and try to raise awareness with people with similar missions, either vegan business or female founded businesses, or just try to gather a strength together. Other than that, Instagram is a very powerful tool for us. And also sharing the mission and the vision of the brand in platforms such as yours, because I strongly believe that nowadays people more and more vote with their wallets, or at least for me this is how I perceive consumption, right? And so I think that really explaining the why behind the existence and the very existence of Jena St and its products is crucial, so that people can decide, whether they actually want to support us and support our journey by purchasing one of our handbags or products. That's
when you said, thank you for sharing that, Jenna. When you said you collaborated with other businesses to market, can you explain a bit more, or perhaps give me an example?
Yeah, so it's typically organizing little contests where people, for instance, like an ethical beauty brand, we partnered, based in Berlin as well. We partnered with them and offered like a set beauty set and like a handbag, or these kind of things, like organizing concepts so that we exchange visibility, their follower base see us,
Okay.
and our follower base see them,
Okay,
and that
gotcha.
way, we boost each other and like support each other. Yeah.
I love that. I love that collaboration. I love it when vegan businesses in particular, businesses that are on the same mission can collaborate, and it's a win for everybody. So I think that's wonderful. Now, talking like, obviously, you make vegan handbags now. There's a lot of vegan handbag brands out there. Some are legacy brands. They've been around for quite some time. There's other people coming into the market. How do you stand apart? And I was going to say stand apart from your competitors. And I always put it in air quotes because obviously, we're all on the same mission. But, technically, you've got people kind of making, in the same space. How do you stand apart? What's your point of difference?
I think it comes down to when you're building a fashion brand, it comes down to the universe that you're building around it. The aesthetics. Are people sensitive to the kind of storyline that we're trying to portray in our photo shoots, in our designs? Are people attracted by the objects that we create? Also, I would say the integrity of our communication and the fact that we're trying to stay as close as possible to our community through the community lab, but also through our communication. So, for instance, if you subscribe to our newsletter, you're going to receive updates on how our journey, is going towards going 100% plant-based, which is the absolute goal, towards going 100% circular. I think we're just transparent about it and about the steps that we're taking. So, yeah.
Fantastic. I love that. I'm loving seeing all the developments, and it's just interesting how people differentiate their brands. So just final questions to wrap up. What would you say, and you've touched on this a little bit earlier, but what would you say have been one or two of the key learnings that you've learned from running Jena St?
I think the first one would be try not to measure your self-worth through your sales results. And it sounds super
that's
obvious.
A good one. I like that. Oh, tell me more. I like that.
I think it kind of sounds obvious for someone who's not like that involved or like into a business or something, but it's actually it gets to you in a way subtler way than you can imagine. I actually realized that there were days where sales were going super good, and and not only sales, but also just I was having positive feedbacks and nice reviews, and then other days suddenly it stops, and you're like, start to freak out, start to doubt, start to like lose all your confidence. And I actually observed this, and I was like, oh wow, you need to stop. Like, you need to take a step back, and you need to really think about like why you're doing this, who you are. And Jena St is its entity, it's a project, but it doesn't affect who you are as a human being. So I think when you're an entrepreneur, you get to really identify yourself with your business. And I think it's important to try and keep the balance. That's one thing.
I love that. That's such a good one. That is really good. I really hope people hear that, because I can relate to that. So when you're saying that, that's why I jumped and I'm like, oh my gosh, I get it. So, okay, cool. You want to share another one?
Maybe that I truly believe now, even more than ever before, then there's no failure. There's only learnings. I think certain things take more time than others. I think that it's either, I read somewhere, it's either you win or you learn. And if you take things like this as a learning journey and you embrace that, I think you will stay sane and healthy as an entrepreneur.
Fantastic. I love that. So just finally, and I know it's difficult at the moment, we've still got obviously the COVID still impacting the world, but anything you want to share with us about your vision for the future, or any plans that you've got coming up that you'd like to share?
We have a lot of stuff coming up, because we're launching a 100% recycled textile t-shirt. It's a little collection called the Ocean's Muse. So it's like to pay tribute to our ocean. I love surfing and I love the ocean, and I'm very strongly connected to it. So it's like it's another message, but I mean, that comes down to our protecting and respecting our environment and its inhabitants. We're also coming up with our plant-based collection very soon. Very excited about this. And of course, the long-term plan is to go 100% circular, 100% plant-based. And we're also looking for more funding, so to the investors out there. And otherwise, just to keep things real and family-like within the company.
And when, in terms of, because at the moment you said the majority of your sales are online because your showrooms, not open, and I think a lot of showrooms are not kind of yet open. I mean, are you planning down the track to go down the route of, say, getting your products into some of the high-end stores or the department stores, or is that not what you're looking to do?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're still hoping to attend some trade shows in Germany during Fashion Week. So crossing our fingers. Yeah, and the strategy is, of course, to try and reach people through different channels, not only online, but also so that they can touch and just see our presence growing. And so that includes retail, of course. Yeah.
Great. Fantastic. Wonderful. Well, look, I love what you're doing, Jenah. I think it's fantastic. It's great. I love how you've got all the different aspects to it for, helping people, animals and planet, and, being very mindful of waste. And like you said, the circular program you've got, I think it's wonderful. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. I really appreciate you sharing your insights. Thank you so much. And obviously, if you want to find out about these wonderful bags and accessories and T-shirts, you can go to Jenah St. That's JENAH-ST.com. If you're watching the episode, that will be appearing across the bottom of the screen. And if you're listening to the audio, that link is on the show notes page for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me, Jenah.
Thank you, Katrina. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Bye for now.